potent advice, and inspiration from real self-made millionaires. Welcome to The Eventual Millionaire with your host, Jaime Masters.
Welcome to Eventual Millionaire. I'm Jaime Masters, and today on the show, I am so excited to have Mike Michalowicz. Now, he has so many books, it's insane. Well, the first one I heard from him was The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, and then The Pumpkin Plan. And I was very confused how his next book, Profit First, really made him go on the map. It was insane how many people talked about Profit First and not Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. So I'm asking you, Mike, thank you so much for coming on the show, but how the heck did you go from Toilet Paper Entrepreneur to Profit First? Because that seems like a wide gap.
Believe it or not, it kind of makes sense. What I did was I wrote Toilet Paper Entrepreneur to some degree to correct my own wrongs. I had grown some businesses. I had really screwed up in business and started journaling. My friends call it a diary, but it's journal for guys, journaling. I started journaling and I was writing down all these mistakes I've made, just to kind of let it out. But then also started thinking, oh, what's a different approach? Started interviewing people. And all of a sudden I'm like, I'm starting to write a book here, and didn't really realize it. It also was a dream of mine to be an author one day. So I was like, ooh, I'm going to do this. And I wrote The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. The Profit First, which was my third book, and it's been subsequently really re-released, was a journey that my readers were going through. So people started discovering Toilet Paper Entrepreneur and would say, hey, I love that book. It's a different type of book. But it got people inspired to get their business started. And then they said, I have a problem with growth. That's why I wrote The Pumpkin Plan. I'm not profitable. I'm working my ass off. I'm not making any money. So I wrote Profit First. And I wrote some other books too. And my most newest book that's coming out is again in response to what readers are saying to me.
Wow. So you're just going on the journey of your customers and just giving them exactly what they want when they need it.
Exactly. Which ironically, a lot of stuff is like exactly what I need too. Most of the books I write, I realize, oh my God, I'm really actually trying to fix myself, fix my own business challenges. Yeah.
You might as well be researching the stuff that you have to deal with anyway. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me, what is this new book that's coming out?
It's called Clockwork. And what it's about is business efficiency. But my whole thing is I like to ultra simplify things to the essence of what makes impact. And here's what I found. Most businesses, most entrepreneurs are pursuing productivity, which is great. And productivity works, but it's also a significant trap. The more productive I become, the more things I can do. The more things I can do, the more things I do. And so I stay stuck in this, oh my gosh, I have more things on my plate. I need to be more productive. And so the stress levels are ridiculous. The other thing is, I'm sorry, I just got distracted. That was
good. I have ADD also. So what was that?
Yeah. Sorry.
I love that.
So the other component that's going on is businesses don't pursue organizational efficiency as much as they pursue productivity. So what most businesses I studied, small business or big, are saying to each employee, do more. For myself, do more. In Clockwork, I study organizational efficiency and explain what it is. Productivity is the brute force approach to getting things done. Organizational efficiency is the choreographed dance to getting things done. And it's way easier. It's way easier than you think.
Oh my gosh, now I can't wait for your book. When does that book come out?
Not until August of 2018.
Okay, so I'll have to have you back again later. So we'll talk about more Profit First stuff now. And then I'm obsessed with that same exact topic, right? And so first, though, a lot of the people need to hear all about Profit First. Read that book right now. Get better so they have enough profit for August when the book comes out, right? So they can buy many copies for everyone they know. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about the Profit First formula principle, because it's a thing.
Yeah, so Profit First, let me tell you how it came about. There is an existing formula for profitability that everyone knows. I bet you everyone watching knows this, is sales minus expenses equals profit. It's the foundational formula for profitability. But what I noticed is there was a study conducted. I attribute it to the SBA. I'm actually now unsure if it's exactly them. But in the study that I read, 83% of small businesses, a small business as defined by the SBA is a company that does $25 million in annual revenue or less. So that's absolutely my business. I suspect it's yours. Probably everyone watching is a small business. 83% of us are surviving check by check, which means I am desperate to get money in today to pay the bills that are sitting on my desk right now piled up. So there's this constant desperation. And what made no sense to me is that means there's countless entrepreneurs watching this show right now who are intelligent enough, have the drive, have the passion, the chutzpah to get a business off the ground and do what they're doing. And they're selling. It is working. But there's one little piece that we're not getting right, which is profit. And I'm like, is there a piece in the human brain, at least 83% of us, that's missing? Like, what's wrong with us? And that was the aha moment. I was like, oh my gosh, the formula we've been taught, sales minus expenses equals profit, is a total freaking lie. It doesn't result in profit. And the reason it doesn't result in profit is because of a behavioral mechanism. Basically, the concept is this: what comes first, what we see first, it becomes our priority, and what comes last is delayed or insignificant. Like if I went to the hospital today and the doctor says you might change your diet, stop smoking, stop drinking. I don't do either, but stop. I would instantly stop. And I would say, starting today, I'm going to put my health first. I would never come out of the hospital saying, starting today, I'm going to put my health last. So what comes first is a priority. What comes last is delayed. And in the old formula, sales minus expenses equals profit, we are told that profit can wait for later. Most of us, we wait till the end of the year and say, oh, no profit this year, maybe next year. We literally kick the can down the road on profit for another year. So profit first, to get back to your question. Profit first, here we go. Profit first, I simply flip the formula. The principle I teach is what's important must come first. The new formula is sales minus profit equals expenses. And how we deploy this in our business is starting today, when revenue comes into your business, immediately take a predetermined percentage. You can determine it, and in the book I talk about percentages, but 5, 10, 15, you determine the percentage, allocate that money to a profit. It's the pay yourself first principle applied to your business and run your business off the remainder. Logically, we're just moving variables around. It's a shell game from a logical mindset. But from our behavioral aspect, it is an extraordinary shift in our business when you take your profit first.
Okay. And I love this concept. And people, my clients, have been like, okay, so I know that's really important, but what about growth? Because what if we're going, we need to grow so I can't, but it's an investment and we're taking that piece and putting it somewhere important.
Yeah. I love that question. That's the one I hear most often. So I'll give you two responses. First of all, I ask people, what about happiness? Would you rather be happy 5 or 10 years from now and just live under pure stress and panic and hate your life? Or would you want to be happy immediately? Most people say, I want to be happy now. Yet it is human nature to be stuck in that job I hate for my whole life, hoping one day to achieve happiness. And what the result is we actually see that we continue to spiral into unhappiness. That it is when you push off something to happen in the future, it doesn't happen in most cases. So, but more of a technical response. Why do we want to grow? And I ask people, why do you want to grow? They say, well, so I can make more money. Well, why do I want to make more money? So I can take more home, which is the definition of profit. Oh, so you want to be profitable one day. So you're trying to do everything to spend money today. So one day this will happen for you. So why not instead establish this as a habit? It's like drinking. It's like saying, one day I'm really going to stop drinking. For now, I'm going to drink more and more and more and more. It becomes a habit. It becomes an addiction. Not that there's anything wrong with drinking. I'm not placing a judgment. Listen, I don't drink, but I do drink margaritas every so often. So I totally like drinking.
Thanks for the caveat. Appreciate it. We all hate you right now though anyway, because you're like, oh, it's a catch-22. Ha ha ha. It's your own fault. Right. Yep. Right. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Okay. So now here is the statistical stuff that blew my mind away. I wrote Profit First, the original edition, which I don't know if you can see, it's behind me there. Mm-hmm. That's the re-released edition. The difference between the original edition, which I wrote 3 years ago, and the re-released edition that came out this year was I now had case studies. Today, we have over 40,000, we estimate this, but over 40,000 businesses implementing it. We have somewhere between 2,000 to 3,000 documented case studies. And here's what we found. Businesses that implement Profit First actually grow faster than their counterparts in the industry. And that blew my mind. I was like, hold on. If you take money for yourself, you have nothing to put money in to grow. And here's what I found. Case study after case study. Businesses that take their profit first now have less money to spend on growth, which growth means advertising, reinvestment into equipment or whatever. That forced these businesses to be more selective. So they went through a stricter evaluation process saying, what advertising actually does bring results? I know everyone does Facebook, and when I had money, I would just do Facebook ads. But now I have less money. Which advertising really works? Maybe I need to do traditional advertising or a mailer campaign or maybe Google or maybe Facebook, but now I actually evaluate it. The equipment I had to purchase, before I had just enough money, now I have less money. Can I get used equipment? Can I find other equipment? These businesses become much more disciplined in their use of money and actually start targeting their money on the things that actually bring results. The old 80-20 rule plays in here. Most businesses spend 80% of their money on the stuff that brings basically no results. We run Facebook ads, it didn't work. We're like, I'll run more Facebook ads. And we actually, our money expires very quickly. So these businesses became more focused on where they concentrate their money, and they found things that brought more results. And then they started concentrating their small amount of money there. And as more money flew in, more revenue, that means while the percentage for expenses stays the same, the pie becomes bigger because more money's flowing in. They concentrated more money here. And the businesses actually started outstripping their competition in a massive way in growth. My own organization represents that too. We take our profit first. We protect that like it is the jewels of the kingdom. As a result, we haven't done anything on the web that of any significance to market ourselves for 3 years because we didn't have the money. But
really?
What we found is,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, we have a nice website. We actually just upgraded our website for the first time a week ago. But here's what we found. Mm-hmm. With our less money available, we said, what's better marketing than web marketing? And we found our own clientele. We empowered them to spread the word about us. They are handing over clients to us left and right in introductions because we actually don't even say, hey, could you market us for us? We serve them better because we concentrate our money on them and they're blown away. The second thing is the book is a tremendous generator of revenue. Of prospects and revenue. And so what I did, I said, okay, if the book is so popular in generating leads for us, what can I do to get the word out in the book more? And so what I did is I started speaking, tons of speaking. And here's the great irony. I get paid to speak, which means I get paid to prospect. It's unbelievable. So we reversed it. But I will tell you this as a kind of a summary of this. If I let all the money flow in to grow my business, it would have been on ads and marketing and blah, blah, blah. And I wouldn't have measured the results and I would have been frustrated. By not having the money, I had to figure out what's already working and then amplify it.
I love the data because most of the time it's like, oh, that's great to say and all, but what does it actually do in real life? Because it's a very different thing. So what about the people that are hurting over their bills or over payroll? And they're like, okay, how do I pull out that top 10% or even 5% or whatever? Now I'm going to be even more stressed because I can't pay my payroll or whatever.
Right. So here's the hard truth. And this is the one, if you're willing to face it, you'll be successful. If you're not, you'll be stuck where you are. If you can't pay your bills, your business is telling you you can't afford your bills. It is that clear. So if you can't pay your bills, you can't afford your bills. When you start taking your profit first, the money available to spend on bills is representative of the actual money you have to be profitable. You are reverse engineering your profitability. So when you take your profit first, your business is telling you, this is all the money we have left. This is what we have to work with. If you can't pay your bills, you have to get real honest with yourself and say, okay, my business is in the position to spend this money. How do I cut costs? How do I increase margin? Meaning, how do I dictate more money coming in, bigger premiums, more margin, and reduce my costs? And I have day after day, actually 4 emails came in this morning already. People email me through the book saying, but Mike, I have all these expenses here. I don't know what to do. There's one person, it must have been like a trilogy they wrote. And I do read every single one because it's important to me. And my response is always the same. If you can't pay your bills, you can't afford your bills. And it's time to face the truth. And they have all the excuses why, but I'm unique. I have to. We're just trying to get to this next plateau, this next threshold.
If I hire this one person right now, I mean, I just hired them. Now I can't fire them right away because I just hired them and all this other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I know I'm picking on alcohol and drugs. It's really not my thing, but now I'm thinking drugs. Like, if I have a drug addiction and I'm shooting heroin into myself saying, I got to get off of heroin. You don't get off heroin by saying, let me take more shots. I'm going to get off heroin one day, but for now I need to inject more heroin. No, to get where you want to go, there must be an immediate action. The big thing, and this is the little caveat, is slow steps. Slow steps. I've seen businesses that say, oh my gosh, I get it. I want to be profitable. I'm going to take 50% of my money and put into profit. That's the solution. And now it's such an abrupt change. It's kind of like going to the gym to work out. The very first time you go to the gym to work out, do not try to bench press 300 pounds, to squat a ton, to do this cycle for 6 hours straight. No, maybe we're trying to build toward that. The key is to start slowly and build momentum.
Okay, so tell us how to cut expenses, because that's the thing. I came from paying off, 70 grand in debt. So that was a thing for me. I loved cutting expenses and seeing the numbers. Yeah. Most people avoid numbers like all heck. So
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Or we sign up for all these things that we forgot we signed up for a long time ago, and now we're being charged yearly and we never notice, or something like that, right? So what do you specifically suggest for people to actually be paying more attention to their expenses, and how do they determine what to keep versus what not to keep?
Yeah. So there's a difference between expenses or costs and investments. So the first thing is go through, print out your P&L, print out your credit card statement, and just only circle things that are an investment. Now, here's what investment is: that you have a appreciable and quantifiable return. So don't say, hey, I send out a mailer, that's an investment because it could bring prospects. How many prospects did it bring? How much can you attribute to that? If you don't know, it's a cost. You have to find which ones are a true investment. Then once you distinguish investments and costs, we cut costs. This is what they call in business when you can either cut the fat or cut the muscle. We want to get rid of the fat, but you can damage a business by cutting costs too much. Investments we don't want to cut, costs we want to cut. Be careful of insidious costs. Like there's recurring bills. That software that was only $13 a month. It's not $13. It's 13 times 12. You're paying $140 or whatever that calculates out to be. So we see the small monthly cost, but we don't appreciate the impact it's having on us. One thing I do, cancel your credit card. Just cancel it. And this flushes out. It's kind of like cockroaches. You turn the light on, all the cockroaches go. Cancel your credit card and watch how all of a sudden your phone starts ringing. People start calling, hey, you the bill. I tried to process the monthly. What's going on? Now, some of those bills you should be paying. They are an investment, are good for you. Give them the new credit card number, or ideally, I won't use debit cards. Use your debit card. Yeah. I'm a believer in that. Other ones, you'll say, oh my God, I can't believe I was spending that money that way. That was a waste. Cancel it, get rid of it permanently. Sadly, and this is the hardest one, most businesses, the two biggest costs are their staff themselves. Most businesses are overstaffed in a big way, and rent of space. So, figure out that space situation. Working at home, it's a great thing. I'm a big fan of it. My own business, we're now in an office space because we have 8 or 9 employees here. The most I could fit in my basement was 7 people. And my basement's like this big. Like we were jammed in there. That's awesome. But very proud of that because it moved us along to that point where now we have a space that we can very comfortably afford, and it affords us the space we need. But the other thing is employees. Again, most businesses are overstaffed. Here's the rough rule of thumb for a service-based business. Good. You should be generating, most businesses, about $150,000 in revenue per full-time employee in a service-based business. That's usually and again, this is a rule of thumb, it's usually the profit threshold. If you're in a business that's like a McDonald's, where it's usually a low labor cost, but you have to have a lot of people flipping hamburgers, the generation of revenue is not 150,000, it's lower. If you're in a very high-end technical space, maybe you make rocket ships, then now you're talking 2, 3, maybe 400,000 per employee because they're paid so well. But I find the average business, take your revenue, divide by 150. So if I make, say, $1.5 million in revenue, divide that by 150, that comes out to 10 employees. If I have 500,000 revenue, divide that by 150, that comes out to about 3 full-time employees. And I know businesses that do 500,000 in revenue and have like 6 employees, and they're like, why isn't it working? Because you have way too much overhead.
Okay. So I have 1,000 questions for this. Okay. So, yay. So one caveat though, that's where the growth thing happens, right? So I agree with you 1,000%. A lot of people are like, oh, but I feel more important when I have more employees. My business is doing better when I have more employees. Yep. Or on the contractor side, we have a bazillion contractors and barely any employees, and you feel like you're pulling teeth, right? So when we're looking at the growth model of going, well, I need to always be looking for the right hire. Yeah. So, and then I found them, and now I am a little overstaffed, but it's okay because the trajectory looks like this. What do you feel about that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I've made those bets, but when you do that, realize you're making a bet, and your job as the owner of the business is to assure a positive outcome as much as possible. I know people say, I hired this great person. Why are they so great? Because they're great. What are they going to do? Everything, sell. They're going to do my stuff. They're great. That is usually the worst plan ever. Yes. If you say, listen, to move this business forward, we need to amplify sales of a certain product or service by 200,000 this year. If we have 200,000 more in sales this year in this product, profitability will go up by 100,000. And I have this 50,000, this person I want to hire, I think 50,000 is it, and that's going to be their job. Okay, now we have a measurable outcome. Do they have the attributes and stuff that support it? Okay, do they know that's the goal? Do they have a reason that goal is important to them? Maybe they share in profit. Maybe they just realize the impact their service is having by selling what they're doing. But do they realize it? Is it crystal clear to everyone? And then what are the milestones as we get there? Every week for the first month or two, we should be checking in. Are we making the gains we need to make this a success? Then on a quarterly basis, reevaluating it. Do we have an exit plan? If this doesn't work, if our best plan doesn't work out, what's the exit? When do we cut bait? Most business owners, they make the hire. It's fairy dust, and they're like, just make things happen. And then 6 months into it's not working. They're like, well, maybe next 6 months. A year into it's not working. A year later, they're like, oh my God, I just have to. Maybe next year. And they keep kicking the can down the road, and the expenses get bigger and bigger. The money flows out, and they dig a deeper and deeper hole. So you got to have a plan if you're going to make that bet.
And the hard thing is that, as you probably know, we have a hard time as business owners to even do quarterly evaluations of our employees, let alone go, hey, are they actually making any money, right?
Oh,
or
yeah.
It's
so
a year, and you're like, oh, crap.
Technique.
What was that?
So right. To stick with that schedule, I got so much going on. Put the onus on your employee. Have it their responsibility. And here's what I do. I have my colleagues here. I don't think we're employees. I don't like employees because that shows a hierarchy. I like colleagues. But my colleagues, we all will write a self-evaluation. Mm-hmm. We'll write our own goals and objectives. And we'll write what my compensation should be or whatever my structure should be if I achieve those results. Then we sit down at the end of the quarter or the year or whenever we do the review, we do every 6 months typically, sit down and say, okay, let's discuss the progress you outlined to achieve and the actual results. And then let's address that accordingly. So that's how we do it. We don't miss our reviews because it's in the responsibility of the person that's benefiting mostly from the review, so to speak. But we're both benefiting, but.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because otherwise it's like, I'll do that later. It's not that important, right? And then you're like, kind of the most important thing. How much money are you spending every month on these people?
Exactly.
And then they have to actually like what they're doing and get feedback. Huh, what a surprise. Right. When we're looking at not only the profit first side of it, do you also, or tell me what your thoughts are on safety, right? So let's say they can pay their bills, right? So they can afford them. That's good. But how much do they have in savings, quote unquote, to be able to cover how many months worth? Or because I deal with a lot of safety or fear-based issues with people anyway. So let alone the profit side of things, but I feel like it's never enough. Feeling.
Yeah, so I did a statistical analysis on exactly this. The concept of profit first, just to set the stage here, is it's like the envelope system. This is something that's been around in people's personal lives for centuries. Someone in your family, if you haven't done it, someone in your family tree, Jamie's definitely done this.
Yep, I did it.
And what it is we put money into different envelopes, profit being one of the envelope and so other envelopes. So we pre-allocate money to its purpose and only use it for that purpose. So it's very clear before we spend the money. One of the envelopes I suggest a business creates is called the vault. And the vault is there for these emergency purposes. Businesses do have volatility. Unexpected things happen. Problems come, competition swings in. You don't know what's going to happen. So you do want a cushion of money. I ran an analysis. I found the ideal amount of money for a business is 3 months of operating funds. It's funny because I've talked with other people. I said, well, you should be prepared for a full year. What if you have a bad year or at least 6 months? Here's why I found 3 months to be ideal. Is when you have 3 months, when the business starts having a bad experience and starts losing its sales, you start using those funds to bridge. After 1 month of bridging that business, if it's still tanking, now you're in the position, you got to make some serious decisions. You got to cut costs. Maybe, sadly, you have to lay some people off. Don't try to save one person by not laying them off while compromising the entire business. Save one, but let the boat sink and kill everybody. No, we have to remove those people because the business cannot afford it. You have to cut other costs. So what happens in month 2 now is as the business is still struggling, we start cutting our costs. So the costs start coming down. Therefore, the money that was covering us when we were at full capacity now can stretch longer and longer and longer. The other thing I found too is usually revenue dips. For most businesses, they don't just all of a sudden one day, all the money stops coming in and business is over. It usually is this long slide down and kind of hits rock bottom, bounces around. There's still revenue and some profit to be extracted out of that. So my calculation for most businesses, if they have 3 months of savings, when they go through a slowdown, that 3 months can actually be stretched up to 12 months with a slowdown. So it can get you through a full year.
See, that's so smart. And so much like the personal finance side of things too. I know when I was sort of doing the debt payoff and the quitting the job and stuff, it's just sort of like a balancing act of going, okay, we're good. We're good. And by that long, hopefully we're figuring out a way to get it back up so it's not so crazy.
Yeah, be aware of what's called loss aversion. So Profit First it's kind of a hidden behavioral psychology book, actually, because it's all about behavioral mechanisms. And there's a thing called loss aversion. Loss aversion is once we possess something, we put more appreciation and value in it than when we didn't possess it. For example, I don't care about a red Porsche because I've never owned one. I don't have one. But if today, all of a sudden I decide, I'm going to buy a red Porsche, now that item becomes very significant to me. If I can't afford the payments and the Porsche dealer calls and says, we're going to repossess the car, what I'll likely do is say, well, this is my baby. I'm going to work a second job. I'll start working Lyft or something or Uber so I can make some more money. I'll cancel the insurance on the car and just keep it locked in the garage because that's my baby. I will do extraordinary things, work harder, longer once I possess something. The irony is I don't possess it. I don't work longer hours. I don't work more crazy to possess it. The problem we face with loss aversion in our business is once we possess colleagues, employees, space, we will go often to irrational measures to keep those expenses. And that's what crushes us. We have to have the courage to tear off the Band-Aid. When you see the business going down, you have to realize this is a behavioral mechanism that's not serving you. You're going through loss aversion. Tear it off. Get rid of that space. If you got to remove 1, 2, or 3 employees, remove 3 employees. I'm not saying it's going to feel good. I actually once had to lay off half my staff. I was crying for the entire day. I felt like scum because I was the idiot who put us in this position. I put us in such a bad financial position. It was my fault. But I also knew if I didn't make and take decisive action, that everyone would be losing their job. So once you have to remove expenses, do it, on the spot, do it full out.
So much easier said than done, though. Especially
so much easier said than done. I get it.
Not only firing people, but oh no, what is everybody else in the industry going to think? So if you're a service-based industry, you're like, I had to lay off my staff and get rid of my office. Now what are my clients going to think? What are how do you deal with all that?
Yeah, so communication is king. And Emily Dickinson said a wonderful thing. She said, speak the truth, but speak it with slant. Meaning, I don't go to my employees and say, oh my God, everything's coming down and we're dead. No, I'll say, I'll tell you exactly what I did. So it was with my forensics business. My business, it was ultimately a $7 million annual revenue company. We had to pull in projects of $250,000 to $500,000 every single week to sustain, right? 200,000 was the more normal one. If I have 2 or 3 weeks of nothingness, I had, salaries that I pay out the gazoo. It was very stressful. Yeah. Well, we hit this wall and there was no money left. I couldn't refinance my house again. There was nothing left. I called a company meeting and I said, we're facing a very difficult time. And I said, the reason we're facing a difficult time is because of me. I did not understand or appreciate or anticipate the financial sways we're going through. As a result, our business has to take an immediate action to sustain. We could try to continue to run for 2-3 weeks as we are, but we're all going to be out of a job. So I've made the extraordinarily difficult decision to meet with every person individually, tell them the status and how it is affecting you. I am sorry. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed. But this is the reality. And that's when I met with each person. It was the most brutal day of my professional career. I then also went through all of our expenses. I called our landlord and said, listen, I can't afford to pay the bill. I know I have a 3-year contract with us. You can't squeeze blood from a stone. So here's the deal. I'm going to move out because I got to find somewhere else to go. Or if you are willing to afford me reduced rent, I'll consolidate in my space. But that's the only 2 options I have left. And if you want to sue me or you want to come after me, I get it. I would probably do the same, but I got nothing to give you. And it's the honest truth. So you'll spend money. And landlord, I didn't say that callously, but the landlord appreciated the integrity and the honesty. The other part is regular updates. There's a saying that no news is good news. That's bullshit. No news is still news. Even if there's nothing to report, the people who are navigating this with you, keep them abreast that there is no news. No news is still news. And so once we went through this process, I kept my employees updated on a weekly basis. I said, here's the state of affairs and here's what's going on. We were able to recover in about 2 months and actually brought back one employee that we had to let go. The one greatest mistake I made, though, and I encourage no one, don't ever do this. If you have to remove employees, I also said, well, I'm going to reduce people's salaries. I'm going to cut salaries by 10% across the board. That was a grave mistake because now what happened is I had people who stayed with the company. They were now doing the work of people that had been removed from the company. So people's workload doubled. I was paying them less for this. And first of all, there was some resentment about that. But secondly, they said, when's the shoe going to drop for us? He can't even pay me my salary. They started looking for jobs. And that was a mistake. What I should have done is actually terminated one more person so I could pay the salaries for everyone else and protect the people that were staying. Again, very difficult. Easy to say, extremely hard to do, but necessary.
I actually really appreciate the crisis mode stories because I think everybody just assumes, well, then I suck as a business owner in general if something like this happens. But a lot of times exactly, right? Not only we're able to come back from it, but also sometimes you have to go through what you have to go through because we can't see the future. So what do you tell people, like you came back? What's some advice for somebody that's potentially in a crisis mode right now and maybe having to make decisions but doesn't want to? What about the after effects? Like how do you come back from that?
Yeah. So you said you suck if you're in this position. That's not true. You do suck if you don't take action for this position. I see my business as my family. Would I let my family be at risk, threatened, terrified? No, part of my job is to protect and defend, or however you want to define it. So if I don't take action and I watch my family being torn apart and just kind of stand on the wings, that's sucky. So realize that crisis is a call to action. In the crisis moment, you have to get logic, and it's very hard to be logical when your phone's ringing bill collectors and panics in there, and it's very easy to be reactionary. One simple rule that I've used, it was written by Jack Welch's wife in a book called the 10-10-10 rule. I think her name is Susie Welch, but here's the 10-10-10 rule. It was a genius idea she had. Any decision you're making, consider the impact it's going to have in the next 10 hours, the next 10 months, and the next 10 years. Most of us are looking at the next 10 hours. I'm like, I'm just going to fire everyone. And I say, well, good. I'll get my money back. In the next 10 hours, it's going to be painful, but everyone's going to have money. But then if I say, well, what's going to happen in the next 10 months? Well, now all my clients, I don't have enough people to serve my clients. There's going to be panic. So firing everyone, that's kind of reactionary. What's the impact in the next 10 years? And I say, well, geez, that will compromise the momentum we've had. Some of these employees have been here a long time or whatever. You want to break out of that very reactionary in the moment decision. And you can do this for any situation. If I had a disagreement with my wife, it's very easy to say, screw this. It's just marriage. Screw it. Let's just get a divorce. In the next 10 hours, that feels great. It's very empowered. In the next 10 months, I will be sitting home, sucking my thumb, crying every day, saying, I love her. I miss her. In the next 10 years, who knows where my life's going to go. So we need to get out of that reactionary mode. That's how you manage crisis. The second thing is bringing in an outside party who's not in the trees. A mentor, a friend possibly, but someone actually who's not associated with you personally, doesn't know the relationships you have, and doesn't care about the business from an emotional standpoint. They're not emotionally invested. They can give you a vantage point that you literally cannot see. They can open up those blind spots for you. Coming out of crisis, embrace that you manage the crisis. A lot of people now put this in their book of shame. Like, I'm never going to tell anyone I went through a crisis. Life is great. It's perfect. And it kind of sits there. Actually put on the table, not as something to be proud of and say, what an idiot I was. But say, I made mistakes. I navigated it and I've been through it, but I've been there. What I notice is that attracts empathy from other people. No one expects perfect, except for Facebook. No one expects perfection, right? Facebook, everything's perfect. But real human communication, we expect people to be tarnished, to struggle, to have scars. So put it out there. You will actually find, what I've found is when I put out my crisis and stuff, it builds affinity. People say, I've been there too. And let me give you my vantage point. And then the last thing is set up stuff to prevent this from happening again. It's very easy to go back into that groove or rut of what's familiar, doing the same process we have in the past. Associate with a group. I do it through a mastermind. You can do it through a community, but find a group that is willing to be your board of advisors and say, listen, here's the mistake everyone I made in the past. I want to avoid this going forward. I want to be much more logical and selective in how I proceed. I want your guidance. And let's meet I meet with my group once a month. I sit down and say, here's where my business is. Here's the decisions I'm considering. And they actually help me control the throttle.
You can see the forest for the trees on the outside too. So you always have that outside perspective.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. I love all this. I know we have to start wrapping up soon. Before I ask the last question though, I have to do a caveat of this. So let's say in that last business that you had the crisis, if you would have had 3 months expensive, that would have been a lot of money, right? So to have 3 months total of whatever your expenses were, which would have been great. But what if like your profitability wasn't all that great and we couldn't save that fast? You'd just be consistently trying to actually get that 3 month safety in forever? Or what would be your goal with that?
Great question. So the 3 month safety is something you build, but don't compromise profit. Profit is a very important component. The purpose of profit is celebration. Think of a Fortune 500, whatever, any public company that's traded in stock. I own Ford. This is not a stock tip, by the way, but I own 100 shares, right? Ford sent me a check, my distribution check for $13.23. It stands. Yeah, I'm like, oh my God. Here's what happened. I opened it. I didn't look at that check and say, oh, this really should be plowed back to Ford. I should reinvest it in the company. They can maybe make a hire, or at least an intern for 1 hour at $13.23. I should give this back to them. What I said is, I was like, that money's for me. I took on an extraordinary risk. Ford hopefully will go up in value, but it could decline. This is a reward for taking on that risk. So I used it to, I bought some Starbucks. But here's the deal. In our business, we need to reward ourselves regularly. This is different than your regular compensation. So your business will be paying you a salary equivalent. Now, you may take it out in paychecks or distributions. That doesn't matter, but you have some kind of regular compensation. On a quarterly basis, I want to do a profit distribution, just like the big companies. And when that money comes out, it is a celebratory account. You are not to use that money to plow back into the business or reinvest or push back. Those are all very soft, generic terms for saying it's really an expense. I can't run off my expenses now, so I'll put this money back in as an expense, but I'll call it profit. It's not. It's either an expense or it's for you. That's the only two things. So when the profit comes out, it is celebratory. The next profit distribution, I'm on the calendar year, December 31st is coming out. There is a good chunk of cash in there. That money's going to come out. My family and I were going on a really cool vacation with that money. Now, here's the thing. When that comes out and I'm on that vacation, I fall back in love with my business every single time. I'm like, yes, this is what I always wanted, financial freedom. My business is providing for me. The first time you do it, listen, the profit account may have $10 in it. It feels just as good because that's how I started. The $10 came out and I had the nicest deli sandwich I've had in a long time. I'm like, yeah, baby. And I couldn't wait for the next one. We need that constant affirmation from our business in profit. Use it to celebrate. Use it to reward yourself and you'll fall back in love with your business. The vault, that's to protect you. That builds over time, but never compromise profit.
I love the correlation though, because everybody doesn't want to look at the numbers so much that it starts getting all sticky, and you can actually enjoy, you can actually enjoy it more, even when you're not in the position you totally want to be in. You can still enjoy that $10 sandwich.
And it's fun. It's fun getting there, because I'll tell you this: that $10 ham sandwich is amazing. When the prior year or years of your business, you never took a profit. Yeah. It starts manifesting stuff like, wow, this is this is really happening. I can do this. If I can do $10, can I do 20 or 50 or 100? And you'll just keep on building a bigger and bigger belief system. And usually with a bigger belief system comes bigger profits.
Thank you. That is a perfect note to end on. So my last question, I ask this all the time. You already knew what you were going to say, so now I'm really curious. What's one action listeners can take this week to help move them forward towards their goal of $1 million, besides buying Profit First and reading it? Okay.
Yeah, buy Profit First.
Buy the book now. Go.
Yeah. Yeah. No, actually, I'll tell you one step that will have an immediate impact. Like literally, we can make your business permanently profitable today, probably in the next 10 minutes.
What are you, an internet marketer? Wait a minute. What was that?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And by the way, you don't need to buy anything. You don't need to, email me. You don't need to opt in. Here's what you can do in the next 10 minutes. Call your bank, or you can do it on the web, and set up one checking account and call it Profit. So at your existing bank, you don't have to find a new bank, add one new checking or savings account, fine too, and call it Profit. That's step one. Step two, every time money comes into your business, take 1% of the deposited money into your business and immediately allocate it to the profit account. And 1% is such an insignificant number, it won't adversely affect you. If you have $100 of deposits comes in, I'm saying take $1, move it to profit. Because if you can run your business off $100, you can run your business off $99. Conversely, if say $10,000 comes in, congratulations. But if you can run your business off $10,000, you can take 1% out and run your business off of $9,900. It's an insignificant impact on your business and how you operate it. But it is an extraordinary impact on the money that starts accumulating in your profit account. And what will happen is you will not get rich overnight, but you will be profitable literally immediately. And you'll notice as that profit account starts growing that maybe that 1% could be 2% or 3%. And then you start building that profit muscle and move it to where you ultimately want it to be.
I love this. I have a follow-up question. You get paid daily or whatever. How do you go in there and take out that 1% all the time? Or if you get tons of different deposits, like that's a pain in the butt. So I have a profit checking account or savings account. So I do the same thing, but it's a pain to figure out what you do when and stuff like that. Give me one little tip on that for all those people that are going to ask that question.
Yeah, I would sync the allocation of money with when you pay your bills. Most businesses pay bills either once a week or twice a month. Some do it once a month, but for most business, I found twice a month is pretty good. I happen to do mine on the 10th and 25th. I'm an advocate of that because what happens, money comes in on the 10th until the 10th, the next trigger day. And on the 10th, I take all the money that's piled up and I allocate it to these envelopes, the profit envelope, the expense envelope, the vault envelope, and there's other ones we didn't talk about. Then I look what's in my expenses envelope and I look at my bills and I pay only out of that envelope. Now, the nice thing about doing it on the 10th is when I pay those bills also that day, it'll arrive at my vendors by the 15th. That's when most money is due to vendors mid-month. And then when I do this again, the next trigger day is the 25th. When I pay bills on the 25th, they arrive by end of month. That's when the other half is due. So I get in a rhythm with my vendors. But also now I have my income account swell. That's my deposits. And then allocate out back to zero, swell. And it starts getting what I call a pulse. Mm-hmm. And you start seeing what your normal income flow is just by logging into your bank account. And that's actually the final point I want to make. The beautiful thing about Profit First is you don't need to read income statements, profit and loss statements, balance sheets, cash flow statements. Listen, I know your accountant says you need to read those. I question if she knows how to read those. So what most entrepreneurs do, I call it bank balance accounting. This is my phone here. We log into our phone. We see what money is available in our bank account, and we make a decision based upon it. I'm telling you, don't change that behavior. That's your natural existing behavior. Congratulations. We're going to change the system to support your existing behavior. We're going to set up these different accounts here. So next time you log in, you say, oh, I have X in profit. Ooh, I have so much for expenses. And you just live by those envelopes.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, Mike. We're going to have you on again, of course, to talk all about the organizational side. I know. Just go you. That's impressive. I said that at the beginning even. Wow. But thank you so much. Where can we find out more about you? Because I know your last name is ridiculously hard to spell, and we talked about this before. Yeah. So give us where we can find out, follow you, get the book, all that fun stuff.
Okay, so I'll give you three methods. How many people do that? So the first method is if you're really a masochist and you really hate yourself, try spelling my name. It's MikeMichalowicz.com, and that's my website. But give it a shot, and if you don't kill yourself, I'll be amazed. The second approach is you can go on Google and type in Mike, M-I-K-E, spacebar, Mick, M-I-C. Drop-downs will appear. The longest, most Polish name you've ever seen, that's this yucko. Pick that one. And then if you're the type of person like I am, just let's get there fast and easy. My nickname in high school was Mike Motorbike. So just go to MikeMotorbike.com. It'll bring you to my site. And what I have available for you is a couple things. All my books, free chapter downloads, of course. I'm a blogger. I'm a podcaster. You can get all that stuff. I used to write for the Wall Street Journal for a couple of years. So if you elect to subscribe, that's my little ethical bribe there. If you decide to subscribe, you'll get all of my archived Wall Street Journal articles. Of course, if you're a Wall Street Journal if you're a Wall Street Journal subscriber, you can do it that way. But if you're not, you can get them for free from me. And the last thing, perhaps the most interesting, is I can promise you one thing. If you do elect to visit my website, it is the most different experience you'll ever have with an author's website. That's my promise to you. Definitely different.
Oh, mystery. I love it. And I did Mike Profit first and I found you on Google. Now I had to Google you also, which was so sad. Yeah. I know you and I still had to Google you. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Everyone check it out and check out his podcast. It's awesome. Please, thank you. Have an amazing, amazing day. And I can't wait to have you back on the show. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that interview. And if you want to check out more amazing resources, I'm only curating the best of the best. Go check out eventualmillionaire.com. You can take the Eventual Millionaire quiz, figure out where you are in business and what you need right now. Plus, you can look at curated resources specifically for you on the new Start Here page. I'm so excited. Please join us. Please let me know if you need anything at all. I'm here for you. And have a fantastic day. Bye.